Hello, comrades, and welcome back to Ushanka Show. Здравствуйте, дорогие товарищи. Well, today we're going to have a little bit unusual video. We're going to go back in time into 1982-83. So I was 11, 12-year-old when I wrote this сказка, like a children's story. It's not really a fairy tale. It's called Garik и Harik. So that's the name of two dwarfs. We say in Russian gnomiki. I don't remember why I picked their names. I think this so they just rhyme, Garik и Harik. Although some of my friends were making fun of me because Harik sounds very close to Bukharik, which means like alcoholic. So Garik и Harik, this is my book that I wrote and illustrated when I was in the 4th grade. So this notebook is very old, and actually it's one of those notebooks that arrived from a paper mill where my uncle Andrei worked. If you remember, I had a story about Nisuny, workers that were stealing stuff from their factories. My father's brother, Andrei, worked at the Paninka paper factory. And it's why we always had a lot of interesting notebooks and notepads that some of them I never seen for sale in the stores. So this thing is really old and it's fallen apart, unfortunately. So this is the cover in this cute bubble letters. I only found out many years later in America that guys not supposed to draw bubble letters. So the cover already fallen apart. See the glue already not holding it together. So let's take a look what we got here. So as you see, I was pretty particular about making covers, and I used the ruler to make sure the lines are straight. So once again, so now we open and it's the inside cover, Garik и Harik in the big letters. At that time I didn't know they're not supposed to put the dot in the end, but I did. My name, at that time I didn't use my pen name. Sputnikov is my pen name. And we got a little coat of arms here too. So this is as I said, this 4th grade. It's a 12-year-old kid. I had a lot of free time on my hand. So what we're gonna do next, I'm just gonna have a picture of each page posted, and I'm just gonna read it and translate it. Some viewers expressed their interest learning the story. So this is what we're gonna do today. So if you just looking for the Soviet Union stuff, it's not going to be today. But as I said, I wrote it, and you see it's all in cursive, of course, and then illustrated, and I used mostly ball pen, different colors, green, blue, and some markers. So for those who have extra time, just sit down, get some popcorn, and we're gonna look through my story and read it and translate it. Okay, so before we start reading and translating my book, I just want to say, so we're talking here stories about dwarfs, which we say gnomy in Russian, and just it will be more convenient for me if I say gnomes. So gnome is one, gnomes are several dwarfs, right? And other characters are communi. So communes, it's like they look like gnomes, but they have a little pock on the end of their nose. So those are bad guys. So this is pretty much war story about the war between gnomes and communes. And communes also using dragons for their purposes. So this is what the story is about. All right, here we go. Two Gnomes, Part 1. There were two gnomes in the world. This is kind of like a standard way of many stories start in Russian. It's like жили на свете два гнома. So there were out there in the world two people or whatever. So two gnomes, Garik и Harik. Early morning, when all gnomes were sleeping, and here it looks like when I was writing it, I missed the word sleeping, so I had to edit later. See that little pointy arrow? Harik woke up. Because he was tossing around, he woke up Garik. And here, you know, we're talking about 11-year-old kid writing the story. Right now I'm reading, I was like, well, that's kind of sounds gay that they were sleeping in the same bed, these two little dudes. But anyway, so he was tossing around and he woke up his buddy Garik. They turned the radio on to find out what time it was. So here you go, a little kind of, when I mean radio, I mean the wide radio. If you follow my channel, you know what I'm talking about. But instead of that, they heard in the radio announcement, Gnomes, our country was attacked by the armies of communes and dragons. Oi! Screamed Harik, and they started quickly dressing up. While Garik was still putting his right boot, Harik grabbed the rifle and ran outside. Well, we're definitely going to have an issue with the Gariki Harik because they sound so similar. So Harik heard that something up above his head chlopнуло, so it made like a loud clapping noise. He looked up and he noticed a dragon on a parachute coming down right on him. So that's again, why would dragon use parachute if he has wings? So, but anyway, this is your kid's story. So he sees the dragon on the parachute coming down. So Harry grabbed his rifle and shot the dragon. Then he heard the steps behind. It was Garik who walked out of the house. Harik told Garik that he killed the dragon. Let's go find him, happily said Garik. They crawled or climbed over the fence and saw dead dragon. So Harik ran to get a cart or wheelbarrow, and Garik took out of his pocket a folding knife and began cutting off dragon's wings. When Garik cut off both wings, Harik arrived with the cart. They struggled to pick up the body of the dead dragon and put it on a cart and took it to the river Bystraya, which is like a fast-flowing river name, so they could dump their dragon. And here's my first illustration for this book. Harik holding a rifle and shooting a dragon. So the only way you can see dragon is you see the dragon tail. And he's outside the house. So little details here and there. Got little flower bed and little water faucet. And I said this is mostly done in ball pen, green and blue. So I colored the dragon tail. It took a while to color with a ball pen. Dragon's wings Garik put in the house. When Harik started going towards the river, Garik caught up. He carried a fishing pole. So he jumped on the cart and they rode towards the river. So kind of not sure what I meant about the cart. It's like it was a motor-driven cart or something. I thought it would be just push cart, but anyway, so they went towards the river. Take your dragon further downstream and dump him there. Otherwise you're gonna scare all my fish, said Garik. Хорошо, okay, said Harik, and he went along the river. When Garik started fishing, he heard a splash. It was Harik who tossed the dragon into the river. But Garik was watching his bobber, I think is the word, a поплавок. First, a bobber was following the current. Then suddenly it stopped and disappeared underwater. So that's my experiences of fishing in the village with the fishing pole. Garik yanked his fishing pole, so we call it сделать подсечку, so you're trying to, get the fish hooked with the hook, and barely managed to pull out on the shore a little metal sunduchok. So there's like a little locked box. So sunduchok, the more proper word would be trunk, so small metal trunk. He tried to pick it up, and then Garik realized that by himself he won't be able to handle it. Sunduchok, the trunk was too heavy. So once again, he was able to pull it out of the river with the fishing pole, but now he can't pick it up. So Garik called Harik. Together they struggled to pick up the trunk and put it on a cart. All the way from river to home, Garik was thinking about this trunk. When Garik and Harik arrived home, they saw a note on their porch. The note said, "Tomorrow you're required to come to defend the city." Khazar. So Khazar, that was the general in charge of this gnomes city. Well, defense means defense, and Harik and they carried the trunk into the first room and put it on a table. Harik lit the candle and started inspecting this small trunk, and Garik brought tools. Then he went to the second room where he put the dragon wings. So let's take a look at my second illustration. Now, of course, I noticed, so they used candles, so technically they don't have electricity, right? But then you see the iron staying on the shelf. So, okay, so they have electricity, but for some reason they use candles, so I kind of didn't think about it. I drew candle, then I decided to add iron for some reason. So this is how that little trunk looks. It has a big lock on it. Then on the table we got some ammo, matches, a little hammer. The little box says porach, which means powder. So this is for the bullets, right, to fill with powder, like black powder. So it says tubes with powder. So nice 3D picture there, isn't it? Then you got the candle holder, also in 3D. 3D shelf, got salt, little box of salt. Then I said iron and some kind of jar. And then you got the grinder and something else hanging off the nail of the shelf. So quite a lot of details. Like I was really nerdy kid. My goodness. So Harik took a hammer and he knocked off the lock of the trunk. Trunk popped open. He removed a metal box and miniature radio station in a case made out of the waterproof tarp. Really cute details there. Next to the metal box, so that's shkatulka. This is a popular Russian word. I don't know if anybody familiar with this. Souvenirs, Russian souvenirs, there's like a wooden made box with the engravings or pictures on the top. We call it shkatulka, so it's like a keepsake box or something like that. So next to shkatulka was a piece of paper. Garik picked it up and read. So on the paper, and that's right there, picture right in the story. Кто нашел шкатулку? So to whom who found this shkatulka, this little box, open and make a wish. Quite basic, right? You just open it and make a wish. And you got some cute little details and other coat of arms, arrows, and sword on the right, and some knot on the left. And as you see, I was kind of experimenting with different styles of fonts. So there's two different font styles just in this little illustration. Well, let me verify that, thought Harik, and opened shkatulka and said, I want whatever Garik is making right now, so it will be ready, and was sitting right outside our house. Nothing happened, and Harik walked outside. And he looked, and he saw the airplane, and the Garik was working on it. But suddenly there was a sound of siren, and anti-aircraft cannons started shooting. That meant that the city was attacked by dragon bombers. So the dragons, besides jumping with parachutes, also were using as a bomber plane. So dragon bombardirovщики, dragon bombers. Hurry up, jump in the plane, yelled Garik and climbed into the cabin. And here's another illustration. So this is the airplane that Garik was trying to build, and because they had this magic box, now that airplane was all ready to go. And the idea was that he was planning to use dragon wings for the wings for this airplane. So it's pretty advanced technology. You got a front propeller so you can fly as a normal airplane, and then have a vertical propeller so you can take off vertically like a helicopter. And in the back there is a additional machine gun so you can protect yourself from dragons. Dark blue cloud way above and the little tree down below. And I made those little squirrelies to indicate that plane is taking off, moving up in the air. Harik barely could climb into the plane as they started taking off and gaining altitude. Not far away they could see dragons. They were flying very low. Harik occupied the spot for the Strelok Radist, so he was like a shooter and a radio man. He aimed at the dragon, the one who was flying first, and started shooting with the short bursts. So quite interesting details for 11-year-old. I already know about short bursts. Dragon tipped to the side and fell, but other dragons were moving forward. Harik aimed again, and a short burst from the machine gun sliced the air. Second dragon loudly splashed into the river. The rest of the dragons got scared, turning around 180 degrees. How about that? Oh my goodness. Развернулись на 180 градусов. They turned around 180 degrees and flew back south to Arlik Shmir. So I made up some name of location. Harik wiped off sweat and looked down on the ground and noticed there was a big, so that's polk, like a division of communes, were marching towards the gnomes' fortress. Harik told Garik what's going on down below. Okay, right now airplane will be, I forgot English word, so he'll be like in the air in one spot, right, not moving like a helicopter, and you drop 2 bombs on that division, said Garik. Harik opened the bomb doors, removed the safety pins from the bombs and tossed them down. When he came back into the cabin, there were 2 explosions on the ground. Airplane turned sharp and flew back towards the fortress. When they landed, the first aeroplane was Garik, next one was Harik. Together, they pushed the airplane in a small hangar, locked the doors, and went into the house. Garik was very tired and lay down to take a nap, and Harik started checking the capacity of the shkatulka, of that magic box. After several tries, he became convinced that shkatulka was for real a magic one. So, but I don't specify what that shkatulka do. Harik looked out of the window, and it was dark outside. Well, утро вечера мудренее, so this is a standard Russian expression that it's always better to start new things in the morning than in the evening, said he thought, and went to bed. So here we have another illustration, same room, same table, but besides the magic box, there's only a kerosene lamp on the table. You have a moon and stars out on the window, so it's nighttime. And then I copied from the previous picture the shelf and a box of salt and iron. And it took me a while to color because I just used a regular pencil to make the wall look gray. Quite a bit of work here too. Part 2. Defense. In the morning at 7 o'clock, Garik and Harik woke up. They washed their faces, brushed their teeth, and had breakfast. Took their weapons and went on na оборону, so they went on defense. At the warehouse, they got 300 bullets, and Garik and Harik climbed up on a fortress wall. Beyond the wall there was a battle. Communes started the new attack. From the walls there was shooting. By lunchtime, Garik and Harik used up all their bullets. They were planning to climb down from the wall, and suddenly communes stopped their attacks and rolled back. Alright, so here we got an illustration of the battlegrounds. We got the fortress wall and happy smiling gnomes on the top, different hats. They got 2 machine guns, they got sniper rifles, And in the front of the wall, dead commune soldiers. And as I said, you see they have a little pox on their end of the noses. So that's how you can recognize different, so they're not gnomes, they're communes. And then they got their machine guns. They're all wearing hard hats, and there's the ladder because they tried to climb up in the wall. General Khazar and the commandant of the city were concerned. Unexpected movement by communes could be some kind of treacherous, movements and could cause some grave consequences. Commandant ordered Garik and Harik to find out what operation the enemy was preparing. Okay, so we're gonna stop right here and we'll continue in the next video. Part about my characters, Garik and Harik, flying to the scout mission to find out what was going on with communes. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hello, comrades, and welcome back to Ushanka Show. Welcome back to 1983 and my story about dwarfs and dragons. Part 2. Okay, so we are at the part 3, Разведка, which probably can be translated as a reconnaissance or scouting mission. Вернувшись домой, Гарик и Харик, I'm just kidding, decided to read a little bit in Russian. So when Garik and Harik came home, they started getting ready for their scouting mission. Garik checked the engine on the airplane and filled the spare tank with gasoline. And Harik put in the cabin of the airplane backpack with the mines with the clock, so it's time controlled mines, and that magic box that makes your wishes come true. We're gonna leave at 1800, decided Garik and Harik. Once again, using military time in the 4th grade, no problem. There was about 2 hours prior was the time to leave, so dwarfs decided to read some books. They went in the house and got comfortable in their chairs. Garik took a book about military equipment and weapons, and Harik took a book of ancient fairy tales of dwarfs. Once again, now I'm looking back, it's like these two characters, it's like my own reflection. I have 2 hours left before the mission, so I'm just gonna sit in the chair and read book, because I always like reading books. At 5 hours and 45 minutes, so here go, now I name time normal way at 5:45, they put book aside and left the house. They rolled the airplane out of hangar, climbed the cabin, and at 18:00 they left. Comfortably positioned himself in the cabin, Harik took a nap. When he woke up, airplane already was landing in a little opening in the woods. After landing, Garik and Harik climbed out of the airplane and looked around. Everywhere was the thick woods. It's another popular expression in Russian language, дремучий лес, so it's like old-fashioned word дремучий, so the woods that are really like thick and not maintained. Dwarfs masked their airplane with the evergreens branches and went through the woods towards the main base of communes. So once again, communes, that's the bad guys. They look like dwarfs, but they have a little pug on the end of their noses. A couple of quick comments on this picture. So there's a polyana, so the opening in the woods when my characters are landed. I spent a lot of time on this picture because I didn't like using flomasters, so like markers, color markers in my book, because they bleed through. So I used the green ball pen to color all these trees. all these evergreens, so it took me forever. And then if you compare, like, I made sure the airplane looks exactly the same as on the previous picture. Like, everything was pretty much exactly matching as I envisioned it earlier. So I had a lot of time and a lot of patience to work on these pictures. Alright, so we're moving along. Garik was walking first. Behind him was Harik with rucksack. I'm sorry, backpack. We use the word rucksack, and I think it came from German. When they approached the base, the barracks, it was getting dark and stars show up in the sky. All commune soldiers were sleeping. Only sentries were walking slowly around the barracks. In the house where the headquarters, military headquarters, were located, there was light in the windows. Garik opened the magic box and said, "I want us to become invisible." Nothing happened, so what I mean is there was no noise, no sound, so they both became invisible. Garik looked around and called Harik. "I'm coming," heard Garik, and Garik quietly told Harik, "You go ahead and set up mines in the barracks, and I'll go into the headquarters and try to подслушивать, so it's like listen quietly what they're talking about." "Good," said Harik, and the dwarfs separated. Garik walked slowly by the commune sentry guy, which was protecting the headquarters, and managed to get into the main office of general of the Сухопутные войска. So that's like a military term, so like army headquarters of communes. In the office, there was a general sitting behind the desk, and one of the chairs were occupied by подпоручик, I guess you can translate like a captain. They were talking about operation, the beginning of which was the commune's retreat from the fortress. Garik occupied another chair and started listening. "After retreat," said Captain, "we will receive new equipment, tanks KR Jaguar and tanks TPP Panthers," so almost like a German named tanks. "Later we'll get a new self-propelled artillery. After that we'll commence the massive attack by the Dragon bombers on the fortress. Later we will explode part of the fortress wall, and we will go through that bridge into the city." In this folder on the map showed every single step of the operation, and Captain handed to General a dark blue folder. General put the folder on the edge of the table. "I'll check out the operation plans tomorrow, but right now it's time to have some rest." And communes left the office. Garik walked towards the table. He grabbed the file with the plans of the new operation, and also he grabbed the book Marshal, so this is like the highest, I guess, the military rank you can get. Marshal, how can you become one? And suddenly Garik realized he got trapped. The door was locked. There was only one way out, to jump out of the window, and Dwarf did just that. They jumped out of the window. So there's another illustration I did. So I got the general sitting behind the table, and I kind of even managed to make him look a little bit fat. And as you see on the end of their noses, there's a little puck, so that's how you can determine they are bad guys. There's a safe behind him. I also designed a logo for the enemy forces. That's the red triangle with the green and the kind of moon symbol. You have a captain sitting in a chair with the folder with the plans for attack. So, an empty chair, of course, that's what a good guy, invisible dwarf is sitting and listening to their conversation. Meanwhile, Harik already set the mines around all the barracks, and he went for a walk to inspect the camp. First of all, he walked toward the hangars where dragons lived. Приземистые здания, so they like low to the ground buildings, look like a giant gravestones. Wow, сказочные могильные плиты. That's impressive. Door of one of the hangars was ajar, and Harik, without difficulty, snuck inside. There's some heavy wording. Тусклая лампа, so the lamp that wasn't really bright, poorly lit the insides of the hangar, and Dwarfs saw only a commune guy who was working on a bomb, attaching the взрыватель, so that's explosive element, and he saw also a head of the sleeping dragon. On a shelf, Harik saw a box with the powder, so porach, so like black powder or gunpowder, and a jar with some kind of liquid. He walked closer and read the label that said anti-rust, liquid against rust. That would be handy, thought Harik, and he took the jar from the shelf and put it in his pocket. This is this cute little... I was so nerdy, oh my goodness. So this totally side kind of thing from the whole story that he's stealing a little jar. And then, of course, you see I made the label in a different color with red letters. Meanwhile, Garik already inspected the whole camp and marked it on the map, and that was given to him by General Kazar. So another illustration, and just as I described in the book, you could see a sleeping dragon's head and the commune repair guy that's working on the bomb, getting ready for tomorrow bombing raid. And you see his tools, and on the shelf there's a box with the black powder, gunpowder, and a little bottle with anti-rust liquid that my guy decided to steal. And everything is background colored with the regular pencil, so make it dark and look it gray. And I think I already posted that picture before, and people like that's a 3D type of shelf. So as I read just earlier, Garik marked on the map location of the bad guys camp, but he didn't mark the barracks because in several hours those should be being blown up. Suddenly Garik heard specific knock, and his friend's voice. Hey Garik. Part 4. Возвращение. Return. Gary walked towards the voice and barely could find Harik. Holding each other's hands, invisible dwarfs went back to the woods. When they finally got to the openings where was their airplane hidden, it began the dawn. So it began светать, so the morning started. The dwarves turned themselves back into the visible persons, and Harik decided it was time to blow up the barracks. He pulled out of the backpack подрывную машинку, so that's device to set up the bombs, set up the mines, and pushed the button's explosion. And here it's impressive because this is like quite an adult language. Глухо ухнула земля, и эхо покатилось по лесу, шелестя листьями, пугая зверей. So it's hard to translate, so the ground shook and echo rolled through the woods, making leaves whisper and scare the animals. I mean, this is a 12-year-old kid writing. My goodness, wow. There was another explosion, and the flames of fire went up into the sky. There was the warehouse for the fuel for the tank was on fire. But dwarves already were flying on a plane back to their city. They arrived back to the city without any issues. When airplane landed by the house, Garik and Harik rolled the airplane back to the hangar and walked back to the headquarters to see General Kazar. Garik carried stolen dark blue folder, and Harik was carrying report about destroyed barracks and the warehouse with the fuel. Commandant and General Kazar expressed their gratitude to Garik and Harik for well-performed task, and in the front of all the dwarves gave them почетный диплом. It's like a, I don't know, translate. It's just like this beautiful looking book, and give them medals за отвагу, so for the bravery, and for the боевые заслуги, so for the performed military tasks. Thanks to the brave reconnaissance mission of Garik and Harik, dwarves were able to mess up the planned operation and kill around 1,000 soldiers and officers of commune army. The end of the first story. Well, I hope you like my story about dwarves and dragons. And funny fact, after I made this book, I took it to school and I showed my friends in school, and it's actually created this kind of like a frenzy. A lot of my friends started writing сказки, started writing kid stories. And so that was the kind of popular thing to do in my class. And I remember one kid, he just couldn't write anything well, so he just came quietly to me and asked, like, hey, can I copy your story, because I would like to have my own too. So my mom was actually very impressed, apparently, with my work. So she took this book to her place of work and showed her friends, and they actually wrote comments. So here it's like 6 comments from her co-workers, and they all praised my work. They said the stories was very interesting, and they wished to learn more about adventures of my Garik and Harik. So now, of course, I'm reading as an adult, and I was like, wow. They really BS'd me, because they said the really interesting, storyline. They liked a lot the pictures, and said, and when you finish, I would like to read it to my 4-year-old son. Some wishes that you need to kind of write, since it's a сказка and the dwarves are not real, so the adventure should be funny and more understandable for the young children. So this was practical comment. So great job, awesome pictures, wishing all the best. So after reading all these reviews, this is your pre-Amazon reviews. I got very fired up, and I actually wrote a second part of the same story.